Hey, good afternoon. A little bit late, but it was a semi-snow day, so we got off late. Some kids had school, some kids didn't. But I wanted to share with you a remarkable, moving phone call that I got this week that, although it was sad, was also very touching. And I wanted to somehow connect it to this week's Torah portion. So, as many of you know who watch my videos, 2 weeks ago, one of my dear friends, Harvard professor, who was a doctor, a top nephrologist, and graduated Stanford and Harvard after coming out of this former Soviet Union, and lived right up the street from me, went missing climbing mountains in Pakistan. And this is what he did every year. He went to visit one mountain where he would spend 4 or 5 weeks acclimating and climbing the mountain. It was a spiritual journey for him as much as pushing ahead and continuing and, finding a challenge in his life. And today in the morning, his children got up from Shiva, from the morning period of mourning their dear beloved father, my dear friend, Alex Goldfarb. Allah Hashalom, may he rest in peace. And we had a Zoom Shiva with about 50 people where I spoke, and I told them of a phone call that I received this Saturday night that really moved me. And I wanted to connect it to the Parsha because in this week's Torah portion, we read about the giving of the Torah, the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 Commandments, which is really probably the most essential, important, critical part of the entire Torah. And it's a very powerful part. It's the 10 Commandments where 5 are between God and man and 5 are between man and man. And in every shul around the world, when we read it, we stand up again and we face the Torah. It's like the blessing we make before we receive the Torah. Baruch atah Hashem noten Torah, God who gives the Torah in the present. And the rabbis say because every day God continues to give us the Torah. And the Torah is the greatest impact the world has had, the greatest gift that God gave to the world and to the Jewish people. When we cherish it and we love it and we embrace it with excitement, with enthusiasm, with love, with joy, not because we have to do, but because we want to do it, our connection to God is infinite. And this Saturday night, I got a phone call. And it was a lovely man, Eli Yakuk, who lives in New York. And he must have read an article in the Jewish press. The Jewish press is a paper that's printed in New York, and they had called me last week to do an interview about Alex Goldfarb and about him going missing on the mountain and unfortunately passing, and they wanted to hear more about him. And the article was published this past Shabbos, or this past Thursday in New York, and this guy must have read the article, and he says, Rabbi, I need to tell you a story. He says, so me and my friends, another rabbi and 7 other friends, a total of 9 of us, were going to a safari in South Africa. We all had COVID early on, and we wanted to get away, and we were going on a safari to South Africa. And on Saturday night, December 26th, we boarded a Qatar plane to Doha to then connect to Johannesburg and get into a safari. I said, wow, very nice. Yeah, we do it. We wanted to get away, etc., etc. He says, we're driving to the airport, getting on the plane, and we're remarking we're 9 people. And if we only had one more, we could have a quorum and we could have a minyan and be able to pray. Now, if you know, the flight from New York to Doha is about 12 hours. And within the span of the flight, you get a shachrit, a morning prayer, a mincha, an afternoon prayer, and a ma'ariv, an evening prayer. And these were observant Jews who cherished davening with a minyan every single day. And they really wished they would have been able to have a minyan. But how are they going to find on a plane going to Qatar, Doha, how many Jews are going to be there? Or how many Jews are going to be there that are dressed and proudly displaying their Judaism? Many might be intimidated on such a flight. So they come to the airport and they get onto the plane, and lo and behold, they get onto the plane and they see a Jew with his yarmulke and his tzitzit sitting there. They go, wow. And they introduce themselves. They say, they're treading gingerly because even if he has yarmulke and tzitzit, it doesn't mean he wants to be part of a minyan. And they say, would you join us for a minyan? And with a huge smile, he says, of course I would join you for a minyan. And they said, listen, we want to do 3 minions. We might have to wake you up. It might be middle of you sleeping. Would you still join us? He says, absolutely, I'll join you. Just come get me. I'll join you. And this Jew Eli is telling me how they woke him up and he came. He davened with them enthusiastically. And he kibitzed with them and he told them about his journey in life and about what he does in medicine. And they kept asking, why are you climbing the mountain? He says, I need a challenge, and I'm going to get to the top, and I'm going to sanctify Hashem's name, and I'm going to wrap tefillin, etc., etc. He says, this is Alex Goldfarb, my dear friend, who he met on the plane on his last journey as he was going to climb the mountains before he got lost and passed away. And he says, Rabbi, he made our 10th for a minyan 3 times on this plane. This was his last connection. And this man was obviously very moved, and he was crying on the phone to me, and he asked me if I could connect him to the sons of Dr. Goldfarb, of Alex, and maybe they could do a group Zoom together and speak to them about their experience with his father. But he said to me, he says, Rabbi, I met this guy once, and only for 1 flight, but I feel like I've known him for so long. And he was you see how accomplished he was, yet you also see how humble he was. And that made me think about Alex's passion for Yiddishkeit and comparison to Mount Sinai. The rabbis tell us that God gave, there's a song, our kids sing a song how there was all these tall, big, beautiful, powerful mountains. They were all hoping that God would give the Torah on them. But God chose Mount Sinai, which was the smallest mountain. And the reason the rabbis say was God chose Mount Sinai because it was the humblest mountain. And in Judaism, humility is so critical and crucial and important. Yet the question, of course, the Rebbe asked in one of his talks, he says, if you want humility, why not choose a valley? Why a mountain at all? Should have chosen a valley, which is totally flat. A mountain is still standing tall. And the answer the Rebbe gives is because humility doesn't mean you don't have Jewish pride. You could be humble and you could not be arrogant of your accomplishments and who you are, yet still be proud of who you are and what you represent. And that's what the Torah wants from us. It wants a Jew to be proud, to be stoic, to go with his yarmulke, his tzitzis, to not be ashamed of being in their own skin and representing the Jewish people and who they are, yet at the same point to do it with humility and to understand that it's a gift that God gave you. And if you don't use it right, what are you worth? And it doesn't make you more special, but it makes you more responsible and more obligated. And that's how Alex was in his career. Guy got out of Soviet Union, graduated Stanford and Harvard, published 70 books, yet was the most humble guy. But he was a proud Jew like no tomorrow. Getting on a plane to Doha with his yarmulke and tzitzis, joining the Minyan, the last moments he had on this world, together with other Jews. I'm going to miss him, my friend. But he taught me something important, which Mount Sinai teaches us. To be proud, to stand tall as a Jew, to stand up for being Jewish, yet to be humble and gentle to others. God bless you. Have a good day. Tehei nishmatot tzara b'tzura chayim. May his soul be ponded in the soul of life. And may we all have long life, an enjoyable life. And if you're able to get to a shul in a safe environment today, this weekend, I hope you come to hear the 10 Commandments. We'll speak about it more in the next few days. And if not, we'll have you in mind. God bless you. Have a good day.